Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me for this short video. Today I'm going to talk through how to generate sales opportunities for your business without relying on your network or referrals. And I'm going to show you how we do that for our clients using our authority branding system. So let's get right into it. So based on my experience working with service providers, working with B2B business owners, there are typically three challenges that they struggle with when it comes to generating sales opportunities. The first of those challenges is how to attract potential clients who actually has an interest and sees the value in what they offer. Because typically they usually attract unqualified leads, or they attract people who don't have an interest in what it is that they have to offer, because people can't necessarily see the value in what it is that they offer. The second thing is, outside of their network, no one knows who you are and therefore won't do business with you. The old saying, people do business with who they know, like, and trust remains very true. And the final thing is, you struggle to stand out among your competitors who offers the same service that you do. So it's difficult for people to really understand, well, what makes you different than your competitors, because typically business owners, I found, don't really think through what their differentiated value is. And all of these three problems that I just mentioned is what we're going to look into in terms of how you can actually help to solve these challenges if it applies to you using our authority branding system. So this is our authority branding system. I'm going to break it down for you, starting with step 1. It's 11 step. I call it, authority branding system. Sometimes you may hear me refer to it as the 11 step framework. Sometimes you may hear me refer to it as a 3-4-4 formula. Now, the whole idea between the authority branding system is, as the name suggests, it's how can you build your authority and your brand using content and using our 11 step process. And the whole idea of the 3-4-4 formula is simply because we do it based in 3 stages, right? So the first 3 stages is what I call business discovery. The next 4 stages would be step 4 to step 7 is what I call content strategy or develop strategy. And the final 4 is what I call content delivery. So let's just get into the steps. So step 1 is that business assessment. So the first thing we'll actually do is walk through with you to understand your business, understand which segments or which clients are the most profitable for you, which does your product or service deliver the most value to. And we also do a SWOT analysis, because we want to identify, well, what's your strength, what's your area of genius that we can really tap into to help you to differentiate yourself from your competitors and what they're doing. Also, still on step 1, we also do a competitive analysis, because we want to understand, well, how are your competitors putting themselves out there? How are they describing their particular products and services? Because we want to be able to set you apart from what they're actually doing. Step 2 in that process is that client research. So once we identify, well, who are the most profitable, who your products and services actually deliver the most value to, then we do that client research, right? And we typically do it through client interviews, because we want to find out, well, why is it that they actually purchased from you? What was their buying process look like? What was the actual trigger that made them decide to look for a solution such as yours in the first place? Step 3 in the process is where we create what's known as your best fit buyer profile. So what we do is we combine the insights from the first 2 steps. We look on those feedback, those insights, and we create a profile for who would be your ideal client based on what it is that you offer, right? So we're looking on who are the most profitable in terms of who spends the most money with you, who are the clients that you typically realize are the easiest to close, and as I mentioned before, who are the clients that get the most value from what it is that you offer. So we combine all of those insights and we create a profile, because this will determine exactly who it is that our marketing and sales approach is actually geared towards. The 4th step is where we build out your value prop canvas. So that includes what are the use cases that typically people are searching for when they search for a solution such as yours. What are their current ways of currently doing things? What's the problem with the current way? And then we introduce your way as the better alternative to what it is that they're already doing, whether it is they're using a competitor solution, or it is that they have some sort of manual process or some sort of inefficient or ineffective way of actually doing the things that they're trying to do and achieving the things that they're trying to achieve. And this is where we build out your positioning, your messaging, and your differentiated value to really help you stand apart from your competitors. Once we have that, step 5 is where we build out your content categories. So based on the use cases, based on the problems from step 4, which is our value prop canvas, then we actually decide, well, these are the 3 to 5 content categories that we want to focus on. And the reason why we do this is because we want to create sort of a guardrails when it comes to creating content, when it comes to the type of messaging that you're putting out there, because we want to ensure that it's cohesive right across every single channel, it's consistent, so that people don't get confused when it is that you're saying one thing, but then your sales process or your sales reps may be going out there talking to them saying something else, or you may say one thing on one marketing channel but then you say something else on another marketing channel. So we want to ensure that we eliminate that. Step 6 is where we do that content mapping. Now that content mapping is how do we move people from not knowing about your particular brand and what you have to offer to actually becoming clients, paid clients that is. So we build out that entire process. We have a framework that we actually use to do that. And it includes better alignment between your marketing and sales team if it is that you have a sales team, or if it is that you have a marketing team in-house. So we align everybody to ensure that everyone is on the same page when it comes to how we actually interact with potential clients, target buyers, and how do we actually get them into our funnel and convert them to actual paying clients. Step 7 is once we do that, then we do a content audit. Now a content audit is where we look on what are all the existing content pieces that you already have, and we see, well, which pieces of content can we use for the content mapping process. So it's a way for us to, one, avoid waste, but also to save on time, because probably you already have content assets that we could just repurpose and use within our entire content mapping process. Step 8 is where we go through that content ideation process with you or with your team, where we actually come up with ideas based on the content categories that we created and based on that content mapping. So when we do that content audit, all the gap or content gaps that we identified that the content audit couldn't necessarily fill, this is where we now come up with new ideas to say how can we actually fill those gaps and how can we ensure that our content is actually having business impact and client value. Step 9 is that content creation piece, where now once we have those ideas and we start to create the content and we put it out there. Step 10 is that content distribution, where once we identify which channel it is that we're targeting, whether it's social media, be it LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whether we're using email, whether we're using a blog, whichever distribution channel it is, then we focus on those channels and actually distribute the content through those channels. And then step 11 is that data tracking and analysis, where we analyze which pieces of content are working to actually drive us to the business results that we're actually after, and which ones aren't. So for the ones that aren't, we eliminate those from the entire buying journey and buying process, and then the ones that are, we analyze why it is that they're working and how can we actually create more of those types of pieces of content. And if you actually look here, it's actually a feedback loop, because once we identified what works and why it works, then we want to start to create more of those pieces of content. So we want to come up with more content ideas around those pieces of content that's actually working. And so we go into that content creation and content distribution. And so this creates a feedback loop, so we actually know what pieces of content are working and we can continue to iterate and improve the entire process. Now, one of the reasons why you may be putting content out there and it's not working for you is because a lot of people have realized they tend to start either at step 8 of the content ideation step, or content creation, which is step 9. So they skip a lot of the important core key pieces that will actually help and forms the basis and the foundation to actually help these steps to actually be more effective. So this is where we now come in and we do all the heavy lifting for you to start from here. We do that business assessment, client research, all the way down to the content creation, distribution, and tracking and analysis. So just to give you an idea of a company we worked with and how this actually works and how it has worked for them. So they were a B2B tech startup where the founder was very technical in terms of his expertise. He knew a lot about that, but not necessarily when it came to marketing. So the major problem that he had was that it was very hard as a tech startup to really stand out against the giants that had more resources, a more reputable name and recognizable name, and also had more resources and more people and headcount within their organization that could stand out and actually have a lot more spend. Now the good thing is that at the time there are a lot of companies position themselves just based on what it is they offer. So they say, well, we offer software development services, or we offer cybersecurity services, or we offer staff augmentation services. So what we decided was, well, let's not focus on what we actually do or the products and services that we actually have as a part of our suite. Let's focus instead on the value that we actually deliver for clients. So that's what we did, where we now went in and went through the same process, identify the strengths, client research, because, well, client research in this case wasn't necessarily interviews, it was because I was a part of a lot of those sales conversations, so I could have first-hand knowledge and experience of what buyers were actually saying and the things that they were struggling with and the things that they actually wanted to achieve and do. So then we took all of that information, we built it out where we said, let's focus instead on digital transformation. So we're going to position the company and the brand as digital transformation experts. Now that may seem very commonplace today, but back in 2018 when we were actually doing that, not many people were actually, or should I say not many tech startups or businesses were really positioning themselves in the sense of digital transformation experts. So before we came in, he had this particular potential client, potential business owner that he wanted to work with, and was negotiating that particular deal for almost 12 months with no headway. Why? Because he was relying on his network, because he got introduced to that business owner through someone who he knew that was a part of his network. So that person was a mutual friend of both the client and the business owner. So he was trying to work through that person to get that deal closed. But the problem was that even though that person knew the mutual friend and him, and even though they liked him, the problem was that trust. And the reason why the trust wasn't there and why it was very difficult for them to actually make that final step to close the deal is because they necessarily didn't see them as an authority that could actually help them. So once we implemented this process of building their brand authority, and building brand authority in the sense of putting out blog posts, case studies around the whole positioning of digital transformation experts. And once we did that, then what took them almost 12 months to negotiate and trying to close this particular deal, we were able to close within 30 days. Why? Because that particular business owner saw the content, consumed the content, and they specifically said that the reason was because they read that one particular blog post and it gave them the confidence, well, yes, these guys actually know what they're talking about and can actually help us. And then from there, we were able to generate several sales opportunities for them that some of them closed the deals, and speaking engagements for the founder or business owner, who is my client. And also, we were able to attract investor interest in the company. All because we went through this entire process of focusing on building their brand authority and allowing them to position themselves as the go-to experts and solution to their particular buyer's needs. So that's it. That's my presentation. I hope it was informative. If it is that you'd like us to go through this process with you and work with you, then you can book a call with me using the button on this website or this page or description. If you're watching this on some other channel, I'll put the link to actually book a call with me in the description. But it's likely that you're watching this from the website, so you can just click one of the buttons to book a call. As soon as you do, we'll set that up and we can actually go through a discovery call. Now, just because you book the call doesn't necessarily mean that you may want to become a client. Maybe you're just interested in certain questions that you may have, how this may be able to work for your business. And I'm more than happy to answer those questions or even give you advice that you may want or you may need to help your business, even if it is that you choose not to do business with us. So looking forward to hearing from you. Take care and all the best.